such. So we will begin. So the posted agenda said working group for review of subdivision regulation. What I wanted to do was have Jen give a overview of what we accomplished in the first go-round, but that was for planning board basic procedures. So for everyone's benefit, I'm just going to mention some administrative things before we get into subdivision. Thank you for your memo on Nemco Way, by the way. Very good. Moving along on that. Well, you'll be at October 6th as well for our meeting?
That's the plan.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go through some paper, but the one we're going to actually work on is this subdivision reg packet that you got. So just bear with me a minute.
I'm sorry that title page is upside down. The scanner just arbitrarily decides to do that sometimes.
Copy machine
So it gives you a
doesn't,
page for notes on the front.
copy machine doesn't know left from right. Now, for general consumption, I guess, you're going to see Sandy at our meetings going forward due to some administrative, and then going forward for next year, some administrative support changes to how the planning board does business. So I feel that's a good thing, because everything flows through Sandy, to us, from us, out to just about everyone that's concerned. So that should be a good thing as far as efficiency. Now, one thing that also administratively, there was a question of public hearing as to when we have it, when we don't. And the fact is that site plan, quote-unquote, public hearings were locally adopted in terms of, it was a call by the planning board to do that years ago, and then many people started to do that. There is no state requirement. However, I leave it to the, and I think I shared with the board an email on this that said, basically, we're still going to consider doing a public hearing where we deem appropriate. But at some point during this session of reviewing regs and requirements, I want to get more specific on that, so that we don't appear arbitrary and capricious in terms of our site plan review process. So at some point, during this process of review of how we do what we do, you're going to see a more defined comment as to, on site plan review, when we do public hearings, and I dare say we can reasonably get out of the abutter notice business, because going forward, on site plan review, we don't have to do abutter notice if we post properly the map, parcel, location, and post it properly on the agenda for general public to know. So that's that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do that. We will be doing abutter notices on subdivision regulation as residential, but for other quote-unquote site plan, not gonna bother with it. So that's just some initial changes we've accomplished already.
But we will still distribute to departments where it's important.
Yeah, everyone will still continue to get copies of plans, and that won't change. So. All right then.
We're gonna get them more than an hour before the meeting, right?
I'm sorry?
Get them more than an hour before the meeting? Excuse me. We had talked at the last meeting about putting in place a series of deadlines before meetings for submission of plans, so that we can work on them. We had talked about Lexington's, Lincoln's.
Well, I'm gonna have to,
Procedurally, yeah.
I'm gonna have to wait on Jen's. She compiled what we did,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
she's not here.
Yeah,
So.
no, we had a conversation about that. It's just, getting stuff in the 11th hour before we end the meeting.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
that.
Give us a chance to work on it. Even setting.
Yeah, no, I'll leave that as an internal thing. Like if you're not comfortable with what's before us on the agenda, by all means, let me know. The reason I don't personally send out emails is just because of the open meeting law that has cursed a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean that in a good way, because most people, it's a continuing changing thing, open meeting law, to some degree, and it's best, there's a phrase that says, if you don't have to send an email, don't.
No, I'm all for that, it's just,
Well, what I mean by that is all information will be flowing out from Sandy, so that there's no open meeting law threat.
Yeah, it's just, we, in my short term on the board, we've actually had to act on things that came to us, right?
Oh, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen with me.
No, it's like setting expectation.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen. And anything that we
So-
get on a short
Click
notice.
send, I sent you an email, what's your answer type thing? No.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
the 90-day clock starts to tick.
No.
It's, no.
no, everything, no, that doesn't happen with me at
It
all.
just starts, okay, thanks,
Yeah.
that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to
Are
from
you,
our conversation last meeting.
are you finding the OneDrive system to be working?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I could dig through it, I find large plans to be difficult to read on a digital monitor, no matter how big, how large it is.
Yeah.
You know, I like to be able to flip back and forth and look at it.
Well, what I've been
I'll work
doing is
that out.
put them out there when they initially come into us.
Mhm.
So that could also alert you that it would be available in the office if you needed
Yeah.
to view it further, or you could let me know and I'll get you on
Mhm.
that.
Thanks.
And just for the record, we are straight on 32 East Main as to your questions, right? Per our-
41.
Per our conversation with,
Oh, 32, though, yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah.
with the driveway, there's no issue there.
Yeah.
One other item administratively is, on Air Solar. And if anybody knows anything, please mention it. But Air Solar is going through a decommissioning process for approval and a letter of agreement for a letter of credit approval. So I hope by the October 6th to have that final. But I'm hearing rumblings about Air Solar wants to do something else somewhere else. Has anybody else got something on that?
Is this the
Rosewood Avenue.
Rosewood Avenue?
Rosewood Ave, they wanted to put in a different type of bridge, from what I understand.
Someone Bill Daniels brought that to my attention, that they want to put in a temporary bridge so they can get in and do the site clearing.
I don't think that affects planning.
No, I don't think it does either. That's conservation.
Okay. So that's nothing for me then, okay. So that was only temporary based on the construction required?
And that
Because
was
of the
just a
wetlands.
rumor that Bill Daniels passed on to me. I don't know
Oh,
if that's true or not. I
Okay.
heard a rumor too that Calvin was gonna
But nothing
look
official,
at
no?
doing
Okay,
residential instead of solar.
okay.
And the existing approval back there is no construction. So he's right back at square one, would be my
Okay.
assumption, should that happen.
Good, just nothing. Now, one other thing, you'll notice our mail room is locked. Anything you need from, that gets mailed into us, goes through Sandy. Sandy has a key. That's an internal administrative thing Robert did. You probably already know about it.
Yeah, I'm
But,
already having
you
issues
know,
with it.
And
Someone
there
put
was-
something in my mailbox that I haven't been able to find.
And there was
Something
an earlier,
important.
one more thing, there was an earlier question of how we do things in terms of process as to minutes and recording of minutes and when they're kept and when they're not. There was a thought that we could minimize the volume of verbiage on the taking of minutes. The fact is, we really can't. Minutes, for example, date and time of place, members present, decisions made, we know that, record the vote. But it says a summary of discussion on each subject. So when we do minutes, take a look at them. If you think they're too verbose, let us know. But we still need to continue with the summary of minutes, even though we tape and even though we record and even though.
Yeah, I
people
don't
show up.
think you have to have a lot of detail. I think you need to say.
Just a summary.
Yeah, discuss subdivision regulations and if there were any action
Yeah.
items that came out of that. I don't think
And
you need to say that.
when documents, another thing too was when documents accompany minutes, they don't physically have to be attached to the minutes. As long as they're on file in town hall somewhere, then, you know, there's a minutes of the item taken, and then documents go here, there, and everywhere appropriately, then we go here, there, and everywhere to get them if someone requests them under the document, Freedom of Information Act. Okay, so that's it for, site plan review. Know that, is it October sixth, Judy Barrett's coming to us?
Yes.
Do we have something blocked out on that agenda for,
First on the agenda.
probably just to hear what she's gotta say and then
And it's an
take it
update.
into account, okay?
Yeah.
So whatever we do tonight is gonna be between us munchkins, and then Judy Barrett will hopefully be working with us going forward through the year to continue to finalize our formal bylaw and so I won't address that until then, cause she's got a document here which we might make available to Mark if we haven't already on this. Can you make, okay?
Absolutely.
I've got this memo from April 17th, 2016, just prior to my coming on board. You might wanna take a peek at that just for
And
FYI.
that's related to
It'll be related to bylaw
the
changes,
zoning,
but that's coming later. In fact, I think I got extra copies here, what do I give you?
You put it in the mailroom for you.
There you go. Now you have the key to get in there.
Okay. I'll just slip it under the door, write Mark on it, we'll see what happens.
Okay,
Somebody
moving right
gave me a
along.
letter today, it's been in my office for over a month.
This is a volume of data which somehow, some way, over the next year is all gonna get compressed into three basic documents. The bylaw, our operations manual, and our procedures manual, subdivision control. So, more to come later on that. So, subdivision regulation, what I could do is have everybody look at each paragraph one by one and go down the line, and/or I can address for your benefit things that you may have already thought about and wanna bring to the table. We can go to that paragraph and look at it, cause you wouldn't be here if you didn't wanna
Well,
add something or
yeah, and
change something.
I mean, I didn't know where you were going with these subdivision.
Well, that's
regs.
why
If we were just, you were just kinda, this was a kickoff, or,
It's a kickoff, but what I'd like to do, seeing as you're here, is take whatever concerns you have at whatever paragraph you think is important to you.
Just so you know, Dan and Mark, the copy that we've given you that is, Nick Pollan had actually taken all of the 1998 copy that was on the
Yeah.
website, and everything that's highlighted are the revisions that were then in 2011. So it's consolidated into one
Okay.
package.
so a lot of, you know, basically, I think what we're the most interested in is the section 4 design standards.
Section 4.
Which
Starts
you
from
can
113
talk
in our,
about.
page 113 in our document. Starts with location and alignment, Mark?
Section
Yep.
4, design standards.
The East Street's location and alignment.
This was the one, are you guys looking at the same one that?
We should all be looking at hopefully the same
Comments on
document.
it? Or,
We were looking at the original.
oh, the originals, you're looking
Yeah,
at the
it's-
original? Okay,
Yeah,
is that this one?
this will be the page,
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Page 113 in that one.
yeah,
page 113, that's where I'm at right now.
okay, alright. So this is backwards.
Upside down too, depending
Sorry,
on what
yeah,
page you're on,
some of
Mark.
it is the scan. And I don't know it until they come out, unfortunately.
So, you know, and Dan and I can go through these specifically, some of them we'll have to do a little research on, some of them, are, you know, are probably what we ought to leave as standards. But, you know, some of the design standards have changed. Number one, probably the biggest one is stormwater. which is,
I'm on streets right now.
right, so some of these may or may not have changed. We would look at them and see whether the geometry, the layout, there were any issues on that we wanted to change. Street jogs with centerline offsets of less than 150 feet should be avoided. Maybe the design standard now is something more or something greater, so we'll look at all these standards from an engineering point of
Okay,
view
okay,
and see if we wanna change them.
okay,
There's obviously going to be things with ADA compliance on sidewalks that we have to look at and make sure that it meets
Yep.
all the current requirements, where ramps are, curb cuts, things like that. So I don't think that there's a lot of work on that other than, that Dan and I just need to sit down and kinda go through from a
okay.
2016 engineering perspective. The drainage is definitely gonna change because there's Massachusetts stormwater regulations which talk
Yeah.
about treatment, about reducing the volume, and then there's also now the low impact development methods that should be incorporated into the stormwater. So it may not necessarily be outfalls, it may be more rain gardens or biofiltration and things like that.
Where are you on drainage?
That's
Page 116.
page 116.
160.
This goes back to 87 with an update, you said 91, Sandy, or? when was
Pardon?
it?
The
Oh,
update,
2011.
the revisions was
Mhm.
2011,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
and the original copy was 98, I believe.
But were the 2011
Okay.
revisions ever voted in?
I believe I saw something that they were.
Yes, I believe so, Mark.
There was a cover sheet signed by John Canny and posted and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Johnny Kennedy,
Yeah,
town
yes,
clerk,
they were.
2011, a true copy of test and seal.
Yep.
Cause I don't think we've seen those, have we, Dan?
Do you want this?
Or those aren't the ones that are on the website, are they?
Yes,
Okay.
but they've been added into this, the highlights of
Okay.
what this says.
So anyways, we'll go through every one of these items and, make recommendations. We're not necessarily, the town may not, the planning board may not wanna actually follow our recommendations, but we'd say if we were gonna build a street to modern day standards and wanted to incorporate in, some smart growth or low
Right,
impact
right.
development and,
Well, it cut down you sending out a separate memo,
yeah,
2 or 3 pages long.
Right.
I mean,
exactly,
that's the goal
stuff.
here, is to
yeah.
say, hey, we both agree this is what we want, so. No sense,
I'm not gonna push hard against that.
And then also I'll double check on water and sewer to make sure that those sections match up with our, rules and regulations. Because we do have new water rules and regulations that I put a lot of effort into, and the sewer rules and regulations they're not quite finalized, where I think we're waiting for EPA and some comments from me and Dan, but those are in pretty good shape. But I can see, like for instance, here it says the hydrant shall be approved by the Board of Public Works. We don't have a Board of Public Works, so.
That
So
would be
just-
the
Yeah.
fire department now, wouldn't it?
It's actually the Board of Water Commissioners, which is the selectmen. The fire department would approve the locations, but, so I'll go through this in detail and we'll make, some edits. Do you have this in a Word document?
Well, yes, I did a Word document, so I could send it over to you.
through and, look for inconsistencies also, cause I'm thinking 119, that might be different on what's on.
Is it reasonable, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, cause I know you're still looking at what you wanna present, but obviously I'm thinking of the thing that came to mind right away to me was the issue of granite curbing.
Right.
It wouldn't bother me a bit to require that just on all,
That's what I would recommend,
All
that all
issues.
subdivisions
End of
have
story.
either,
Just-
um,
we want, cause
Either
we want
vertical or
sidewalks,
sloped
we
granite.
want sidewalk, in a connectivity
yeah,
with the, smart, streets principles.
yeah,
So why wouldn't we want
yeah.
granite curbing all over?
One of the other issues that we have up at, well, both Pingree and, somewhat at Mount Laurel is, for whatever reason, the sidewalk, well, I think what I heard was that, Mike Madigan wanted the sidewalks up against the curb instead of having a planting strip between the curb and the sidewalk. So now you have mailbox posts in the middle of the sidewalk, so you can't go down the sidewalk, cause there's no way to get around that.
Kinda like Littleton, huh?
Pingree Hill.
So that's the type of thing that we'd make sure that that's very clear in here, how that's done.
Yeah.
I forget what one of the subdivisions.
Well, you'd want a minimum of 4 feet, I think, right, for
Yeah.
public way without without
I think we have
mailboxes in the
three,
way.
I think we have well, for the sidewalk, yes, but I think the current subdivision regulations say curb, 3-foot grass strip, sidewalk.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, some of the new subdivisions, they let them put it right up against the curb.
No, I'd like to get out of that
Okay, clouds
and
on.
just say, look, we want granite curbing,
Yeah,
and I think,
It's fun on a mountain bike.
take a look at,
It is.
what about street
I
lights?
crashed my bike.
well,
Yeah.
now lighting, I have to agree that, when we had a number of years ago, 15 or 20 years ago, we had the town requested to put in dimmer lights in the neighborhoods that had lighting.
Yeah,
So, I mean, and my house was one of them. My street light used to light up my house like a fluorescent bulb. Say, hey, can we dim that light a little bit? I mean,
With shades of Elizabeth Hughes, when she was on the planning board, her expertise was lighting.
she wanted it or she
was an
didn't want it?
expertise in lighting and more
Well,
current
yeah, I mean,
regs and
how
better,
many lumens and,
all that
well, the
stuff.
lighting technology's changed a lot.
Right.
It's incredible. It's focus and hold.
Um,
It's.
You can dim your lights
You can
now.
focus and do all kinds of things with it.
I mean, I think lighting is a subjective issue. I don't know that I'd wanna say you have, cause then I gotta get into how many lumens per lamp post. and-
Yeah, you need a whole section
Well,
on,
Yeah, but if
Regulation.
you step back from that, Riley Jane doesn't want lighting.
Right,
I don't know if that's appropriate in a 40. I have to get under homes up there and how long the streets are. I
well,
don't know
also
that
when
that's
you
appropriate.
set back, which we are, we went from a 10 or 12,000 town to a double lot, town, which means now you can put your house set back away from the street,
Exactly.
and that's what people want, so
And,
I wouldn't
Here,
require.
here downtown, the houses will light the street to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
yeah,
But on a situation where you've got a 100-foot driveway, you're not
yeah,
gonna
I
need
mean, we even did the same thing downtown, we had bright lights years ago, and we dimmed them, we put in almost like
I don't think
Halloween
that was
lights.
on purpose. I think that was what they sold the town.
I mean,
Well, those LED lights weren't very
So-
good.
no, I'd leave it to the individual.
Well, what we'll do is we'll make a recommendation on that, I know that if you talk to the police chief,
I think
he
at
wants
like
light.
intersections and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, like we did, I think we did that with Pingree too, in fact. We had-
Pingree, I think, has 4 street lights, well,
It's got the
they're
basis in
supposed
place.
to have 4 street
Yeah.
lights, they didn't put them in yet.
Yeah, they're basis in
So,
place.
so that, when it gets to public safety and traffic, I'd bring in the police and you and say, looking at the plan, look, we really need because of traffic and that sort of thing, but, yeah, so, I hope that answered your question.
Mhm.
So, every night, the light's on in front of our house. It angers me.
but I'd rather have it on than off, given the way the street is shaped in front of our house. We've already had 2 cars in our yard in a year, a plow and a car, so, you know, I think the street light helps a lot. And fog lines and things like that help out.
We can
also.
put a boulder up there too. if we want.
We just, we haven't been by in a while, Mark. I got a whole pile of them if you wanna move them around, just let me know.
Now, these highlighted, Sandy, I'll go to you on this one. These were highlighted as items that were added in.
Those are the revisions from the
Okay,
two
good.
thousand eleven.
We didn't have a town board of public works for years,
Hmm.
and years and years and years.
I'd like you to look then at roadways too, because I'm seeing a footnote here written in by somebody that the planning board can waive road width. And on page
What page is it?
114. Major and minor streets and so forth. If you could take a look at the dimensional criteria for that, and is it current?
Yeah. Right now the massive road widths and pretty much every approval that we have, we make a suggestion to limit it.
Well, yeah, they
So that has to be
ask for
adjusted.
Well,
waivers also.
The reason I mention that is the other thing I wanna get out of the business of doing is waivers. I don't wanna have a bunch of rules and requirements and then have people come in with 6 waivers. I just, you know, and if anybody has other thoughts on that, by all means, let me know, but I don't think it serves well to have all this in writing and then say we waive this, that, and the other thing.
Cause the fight I get in with Calvin on his curbing is he says, that's gonna cost me a lot of money. I know, well, Calvin, we saved you a ton of money because your road's narrower, you don't have sidewalks,
Yeah.
you don't have streetlights.
Yeah.
You know, how much money do you want us to save you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll look at all those, the
Yeah,
right of ways and the, you know, cause they call them road diets, you know, one of the things we're trying to do now is make the roads narrower, so you have, you have more room for sidewalks and bicycle paths, but you also have, it does some traffic calming, it does, reduces the amount of runoff, it reduces the amount of new pavement I have to put down in 20 years.
Impermeable surfaces
Yeah.
reduces, there's
So
wins
there's
all
a lot of
along.
Yeah.
advantages to
Yeah.
that, and we'll make sure.
And automobile manufacturers make cars that are more fun to drive on those roads.
So we'll look at all those details, and then where we're recommending major changes, we'll justify or have a discussion on why we're
Good,
recommending that.
I think there was issue years ago too about length of streets.
Dead end
You know,
streets.
again,
The
Oh, yeah,
cul-de-sacs,
that's-
you tend to get waivers on a lot of those.
yeah, well, that's what I wanna get out of the
Yeah.
business of doing. I don't wanna be
Because I think
waiving
this one is
anything.
400 or 500?
Dead ends were
Yeah.
mentioned at 500 feet.
Cause I think we did
But
that.
how do you get
We
hydrants?
did that at
You get longer.
Westford Road years ago, and then they had an issue with the hydrant not. If you're gonna do that, then I think we ended up putting in a pump station over there, because the water wasn't, across from Nemco. What's the one,
Up at, yeah.
Mulberry
right,
Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Crabs,
That's-
crabs.
Yeah, that was,
Smoke,
that,
yeah.
that's more from an elevation point of view, that's up a hill,
Yeah.
Big hill.
and, so that's
but I
why.
think there was one 750-foot, length that
Yeah, generally, you have to have a hydrant
every
within,
500 feet.
well, it's really, a dwelling should be 750, no more than 750 feet from a hydrant. So what they say is if you put them at 1,000-foot interval, then, you know, it's 500 feet from this one or 500 feet from that one. I've always used 750 feet. If I'm laying out a new water main, I put one here and then I go
Yeah.
750 feet, and then I look at where that falls. So I might stretch one to 800 and one to 700. but you always want one at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So you may end up on a 500 cul-de-sac, you may end up with two hydrants, because you need one at the front, one at the beginning, one at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think, what we're seeing now is that most of the looped subdivisions, there's not a lot of area now that suit looped subdivisions, so they tend to be putting in all these little cul-de-sacs,
Mhm.
which are, from a utility point of view,
Mm-hmm.
are a maintenance issue.
Okay. All right, well, do you have any other tick marks you'd like to discuss before I?
See if I had anything. I haven't really looked through my minutes, a lot of details. I wanna,
This was included also? This, section 5 and Article 1, this was all included in this?
It's on the back 2 pages of it, yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Oh, no, this is proposed changes from 2010.
So this page is just in the wrong spot, is that it?
I'm not sure, Jim.
Okay.
you know, a couple of the other things, and I haven't gone through these in detail, but, I think we need to have better definitions on, posting bonds and release of bonds. You know, I got into it with Mr. Roper when he was on the planning board. And I said, well, you're starting this work and you don't have a bond, and he goes, well, I don't need to have a bond. And I said, so you put a shovel in the ground, you ought to have a bond, and he goes, no, Mass General Law says you can't make me do that, and I said, it says it right here in the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, no, I think that's, we're going to follow the state requirements, which we have here from legal, by the way, I believe.
So
This is where I
so
read
that's one of the things. The other is making sure they have all their permits and paying all their fees. So for instance, like, you know, up at Crabtree, they're starting phase 5, and I was gonna ask Dan to help with this. We have to come up with a bond amount for that, because they haven't posted a bond yet.
Who's that?
Crabtree Development for phase 5.
Pingree.
Crabtree.
Um,
I thought they had a bond in place from 20
They've
years
been
ago.
but they've been doing it each phase at a time.
Wow, I did not know that.
Crabtree's the one over on, Hibiscus.
It's a Pingree Home.
It's,
Oh, it's a Pingree.
yeah.
Well, it's
Crabtree
Crabtree
is
Development is
okay.
the developer
Yeah.
up at Pingree.
Yes.
It's been called
Yeah.
5 different things.
Woodland Way, I know by Woodland Way, yeah.
So Woodland Way,
It's the new loop.
yeah, so he has,
understood.
so what he has tended to do in the past is he waits till he goes in and roughs out the road, does all the clearing and grubbing, builds the road base. So the project's probably about, 25%
He's got
done
all the site work
before he posts a bond.
He's not doing utilities at that point.
Sometimes he did and sometimes he didn't, and that's when at one point I said, you've got, before you do any more work, you need to post a bond.
Mhm.
And since he was on the planning board, they didn't require him to. So we need to come up with his bond amount for that project. And we also, he has to pay us an inspection fee. So he pays a certain amount per foot of utilities for us to go out and inspect those utilities. And so I've gotta send him the bill for that. Which, by the way, I don't know if Calvin on Nashua Street Extension has a bond yet. I don't believe he does.
Does he start to work up there?
No.
Yeah.
He did pay me for my inspection fees.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that needs to be clearer what the process is for getting permits and paying all the fees.
I think we addressed that in our subdivision regs, don't we? The bonds.
Well, they're in I know they're somewhere in, if it's in this, in the, zoning bylaw or in the subdivision regs, I know I've seen it in there.
Right through it.
Maybe you're thinking of, when we were just talking about air solar and the surety bond and I don't know that it's mentioned in here. Oh, right here,
I just read
page
that,
110,
yeah, I was gonna say, I just read it somewhere.
page 110.
Okay. Twenty twenty-three. Page 110, here we go. Approval with bonds, blah, 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 blah. So where are you indicating, as in the case of satisfactory performance?
Yes,
We know we still, you get a copy of as-built, right, in the case of a subdivision?
yeah.
Now, approval with bonds assured, okay, so file a performance bond or a deposit or negotiable, blah, blah. Where do you mean tighten up on that? In what regard?
Again, I need to read it in detail, but I just know that prior to me getting here, they weren't doing that.
They weren't requiring a bond?
They were requiring a bond, but it wasn't before they started construction.
They're supposed to be issued before they issue a permit. So that follows. The only thing you can do without a bond is do site prep.
Right, and that's what he was doing. He's doing site prep. So he's going in and he's,
Well, you can do site prep without, because you don't need permits for that.
no, but you should have, the town should have a bond to protect themselves. Say he puts in like what happened up on.
Say he hits a gas main or something.
Well, or he goes in, he cuts down all these trees and creates an environmental mess and then leaves.
So there
How
would-
does the town then go
When
and
was the
restore?
bond,
We're not talking about the Molten property, are we? Or-
when was the bond being put in place on any given case?
Well, on Crabtree, it was after, when he needed a building permit.
Okay, so recently, do you recall any situation where,
We haven't.
you've been on the board, what, 2 years? Or?
Not even. We haven't,
He hasn't done a phase since
we haven't done,
there's
we haven't.
been the
Oh,
change
okay.
on the board.
There has a phasing.
Okay.
The only work we've done on that is the approval of the new plan for, the last phase up there, the Crabtree phase.
Okay, okay.
Whatever you wanna call it,
Okay,
Woodland Way.
the
Yeah,
Woodland
Woodland
Way
Way.
phase, exactly.
okay, so,
Yeah,
well, and again, Jen's not here, so I don't know.
but that's pretty much
Well-
it. No, the only other bond we discussed was the letter of credit for the, solar.
Okay, well, suffice it to say,
Yeah, sure.
remind me in case I ever forget, we're gonna get a bond in place first. Simple as that. Or at least, as long as I'm on the board, I'll
But just
push to
for
require that.
notification, I know you can't do it off the top of your head, but for a place like Woodland Way, what is the bond? What's the amount? The face amount of
We
it?
basically, the way we set the price is we look at, all the different items that are being done and we do a basically a quantity takeoff and say basically in 2,580 feet of 12-inch water main,
Mhm.
that has this much value and that's how we do it.
Okay.
And so I don't know what the exact number is, if
Okay.
we'd have to do it,
But in-
takeoff and.
typically they're going through bonding companies basically, so he's basically paying a premium.
Right, so,
And the
so
bond's being put
he
up.
goes to the bank and
Yeah.
he,
It's not like we're saying we need $1 million in the
Yeah.
bank for you to
so
start this
then,
property.
then what he does is, on a periodic basis, he says, okay, I've got all the water
Mhm.
main accepted and tested, and we release the portion of
That
the
portion of
bond
the
on
bond.
that,
So his premium basically just goes down, he's not,
Yeah, right.
he's not moving money.
Well, he may have, he may
The developer
post,
may post,
he
yeah.
can post, a tri-party agreement and
Mhm.
put in cash,
Mhm.
and, then he can withdraw that
Okay.
as So I think that's what he was doing on, phase 3, I think, cause I would send letters to the bank and,
And they'd release the cash back to
they'd
him.
release the cash,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
But I think, I think my point is, it seems like all these subdivisions that were done started in the mid-2000s, Easy Street and, Patriot Way and Pingree Hill, the rules were different for all of them.
mm-hmm,
So, it was kinda like, and some of them do lot covenants.
Mhm.
So instead of actually posting a dollar bond or putting money in the bank, they say, well, we can't sell this lot until you've approved a certain amount of work. So that's what Mount Laurel was. So,
Mount Laurel,
Mount Laurel, which is
Okay. Was that
Sandy
Mulberry Hill?
Pond, Sandy Pond 3.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, okay,
he would, I'd have to send a letter to the planning board saying you can release the covenant on lot 8, cause he's done,
yeah, piecemeal,
$100,000 more worth of work.
okay. Alright,
So those are the things that I think that we would wanna look at. I don't know whether we wanna look at any sustainability type issues, we'll bring up some with best management practices for stormwater, which, whatever the state, like, Mass DOT's, approving those for projects and things, we'll bring that up, but,
So you'd have to be a state approved O&M for it, right?
right, well, so they submit, the state has a stormwater management
Yeah.
policy, DEP does,
Mhm.
and then most of the guys follow it anyway,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
pretty much have to now to get their, approvals. But there may be some other things that we may wanna put in, something on, porous pavement, for instance, we might wanna say that porous pavement would be acceptable.
that's
Approved
the,
by the
the rain, dry road business they're doing down in Florida, you mean?
Yeah, it's basically blacktop that the water soaks in on, it's
Yeah.
kind of a pain in that,
Yeah.
because it requires a lot of maintenance, but.
Is that recommended for this, climate? I mean, I can see it in South Carolina and Florida.
Theoretically it is.
Interesting, okay.
UNH has a huge,
Yeah,
research center where
just
they
come back from
study it.
Florida and South Carolina, and it's beautiful stuff. I mean, it's raining, but you're driving on a dry road.
And so
It's
you don't
amazing.
need as much detention basins and,
Right,
as much infrastructure to make it work, but you do need to maintain it. So, it needs to be built right in the first place, and needs to be maintained
yeah,
more than what we do out there
yeah,
now.
yeah. And wouldn't we have to have the state,
We would not.
would help if they started with the process of doing 2A, for example?
Yeah, well, I think we would, and Dan and I can do a little research on it. We may say in certain conditions, so for instance, on cul-de-sacs that may be allowed,
Mhm.
or on, parking areas, but you probably don't wanna do it on high traffic areas that require a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And,
Okay.
And think about a parking lot of permeable surface, 10 years from now they seal it. Yeah, I know, I know.
10 years from now, they dig it up and repave it.
They restripe it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So are we agreed on lighting, for example? I mean.
Yeah, I think we wanna have some lighting depending on the size of the subdivision, so, I forget, I looked in, I think it was Westford's, and they don't require lighting except at certain intersections or
Right, right.
certain distances or whatever.
So that'll be on a case-by-case basis based on the plan before
Yeah,
us,
I
right?
think so, I think we wanna have
Yeah,
a general statement
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
requirements.
And you talk about not giving waivers.
yeah,
but-
something like even a statement that said lighting will be, provided to ensure traffic safety within the development, some kind of boilerplate
here where there's central mail kiosks yet? Cause we do have the post office doing,
Not necessarily
door-to-door delivery.
in subdivisions, we do in, you know, a lot of the
in the apartment building, or
condos.
the condo, stuff like that. But, is that something that's gonna come along? Is the post office gonna continue to go to
We'd
every
have to ask
property?
their selectmen.
Yeah,
I thought they were going out of business, that FedEx was going to.
well, they're
With
doing a lot of
their
FedEx
own.
delivery now.
That's right.
But, you know, in thinking forward, losing lights, you end up with
Cluster housing and things.
cluster housing and stuff, you need light somewhere near. And now, local towns I work with, they put mail kiosks up. Over 55 communities,
Mhm.
you can't find them. They had to rethink it, retrench it, and bring in light, so.
One of the neat Bennett's work is when you drive by there at night, it is pitch black dark.
Can I ask you to look at page 121? Take for example Bennett's Brook, I think that had a divider, you know, going down the
It's like
street
a boulevard, yeah.
strip.
Yeah.
Where do you stand in terms of trees and arborvitae and yada yada?
We haven't really done, at least I haven't, I don't know, maybe Dan has, done a lot of research. They have some trees and some planting methods that allow trees to be in small grass strips, pretty successfully.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can look at that and,
Yeah.
and see how that would fit in.
So for example, let's say a commercial development came in and wanted to do something kind of like Nemco years ago,
Mhm.
or Ilgrani, who are they now, Cargill? You know, when you look at something like that coming in where it's clearly a commercial development, and you wanna give it some semblance of away from eyes, you know. I know I seem to recall we went tooth and nail with them for 5 years trying to get the trees. But, I mean, on commercial developments like that, say Westford Road area or industrial areas, is it your?
So having some sort of a landscaping requirement for
Right.
screening,
Right,
yeah.
I think that would be appropriate to put in there somewhere, but,
Also, Mark and
And
Dan, on
maybe under
October
streets.
6th, Alan Minoyan is going to do a presentation about form-based code.
oh, who?
Form-based code.
Oh, right. Yeah, and Alan couldn't be here tonight either, cause he had a commitment, personal commitment, I'll leave it at that, which took priority, so.
Okay.
But we'll get something done, which we are making progress, dare say.
So, in the current version of, I'm gonna jump back to, Woodland Way over there, he's not clear cutting. Or what he said to us in the last meeting was, he's gonna do patchwork clearing. They're not gonna go in there and clear the whole property of trees and stuff. So I think he's had pushback from the residents there about how wide open it is this
Yeah.
year, especially with the drought. The grass has been failing.
He's just been clearing the roads as far as when we were up
Right.
last week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I haven't been up this
Yeah.
week, but.
But is it something appropriate for sustainability and stuff to, you know, I don't know many other places in this area where, someone has enough land to go in and clear it. But, is there some way to, discourage clear cutting whole tracts of land to put houses and homes in?
Well, I think you get into the private property issue of it's my land, I can do what I want with it.
Way back when they first came before the planning board, Billy Oldby asked that very question, how much are you gonna cut, how much, please leave as many trees as you can.
But
And he said, I'll do that,
Yeah.
and that was when they started, way back.
I get that you want the trees out of there,
We
but
we
we're
can
also,
require public shade trees, but that's about it.
yeah, well, from the standpoint of irrigation systems, there's in the new home these days that doesn't go without an irrigation system. And I'm not gonna speak for what's going on with the water here in town,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I know other towns around here.
yeah,
Everyone's upset because we shut the water off. I mean, I manage private properties, and we shut the water off. And And actually one property of mine had access to water and said, you know what? I drive down the streets and I see the fire cisterns being empty, we're shutting it off. You know, cause that's the right thing to do. Grass will come back.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Pingree, you end up in situations where they're not running, I mean, I'm sure they're not doing it now, but you know,
Or not during
you know,
normal working,
yeah.
or normal.
Irrigation and stuff, so it's not a best practice used to be leave the trees for privacy. Then best practices came, clear the trees because it's easier, cheaper, for whatever, maximize your lot and stuff like that. But somewhere in the middle, I don't know if any communities are doing it or any states are doing it, but is there something that can be done? You know, yeah, you don't wanna live in the woods because of the bugs and all that stuff. But if you end up clear cutting it, you've then generated a real need for water, you're generating runoff, and this impacts us all.
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
drive
there's
down
ways
some-
it's hard to require that.
I understand. it's
Other
hard to
than
require.
with you could do something with the stormwater, because obviously a wooded lot has less runoff than a lawn.
Yeah.
So,
But you clear it, you end up putting rain gardens in another mitigation, when, had you left it being,
Yeah.
not old growth, not new growth, but somewhere in the middle growth, go in and selectively clean it out, you know, it's.
and you need to be a little careful. It's interesting, the solar farm up off of back of Groton School Road. Their pre and post stormwater was the post had less runoff than the pre condition. Now tell me how that works, because you're going to a wooded forest area to a bunch of solar panels with grass planted between them. And basically what they did was, you're using assumptions. You're saying, okay, this type of ground cover or growth, and you have different categories within that. So they said that was in poor condition, but once we plant grass, it'll be in excellent condition. So
No roughness.
yeah, so
right,
they're playing with the numbers to make them work, and we brought that up, and they just kind of blew us off.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I don't think there's ever going to be a satisfactory way of doing it, but in impressing upon, and I'm now working with large-scale developers who recognize, you know, they'll fight over rain gardens for months in front of a planning board or zoning, and then they'll realize why. You know, and they're doing it, and they're finding out that people want the privacy. So I don't know if we can codify it in some way.
Well, I'll tell you, if I had to do it over again, I'd cut down every tree around my house.
Yeah, but you had your moment of fame, Mark.
Yeah.
I gotta keep quiet, I had 3 removed too, so,
Do you know what happened to Mark's house? It was
Huh?
on TV.
I had a 30-inch oak tree fall on the roof.
Bonnie and I were having dinner one night, and we heard Mark's voice in the room with the TV, and there he was saying, "Yeah, the tree hit the house."
oh, no, yeah,
That's
no,
what-
I had
The microburst about a
had
couple
the
months ago.
branches
It
breaking all
wasn't even a
around me.
microburst. It
Oh,
just
okay.
was it was a nice sunny day, a little bit of a breeze, and it just
Yeah,
Sorry about
so I
that.
got
anyway.
$100,000 worth of damage.
You know, I've been lucky, I was just telling a friend of mine, my landscaper of all people, I've had about 5 instances of trees come down behind the shed, in front of the shed, beside the car, over to the left of the car, in back of the house, it's like, wow, am I lucky, you know? So I said, look, take that tree out, that one, and that one, and no more of this gambling with,
There's something to be said for managing the trees.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
Well,
Murray,
insurance.
my across the street neighbor had one come down, took out the front of his house, like just ripped the front of the house off.
This one took the gable end of my house off. It's about this much roof and that whole gable end,
Yeah, yeah.
and the ceiling in the dining room, and
Yeah,
well, so.
okay. Well, I think we'll continue to just look at that in terms of, avoid, clear cutting
There's benefits
as
to
a
having,
general practice.
there's benefits to having shade trees, you get better turf, you just, you know, and people, I think, know how their memories are gonna be, but this year's one of those years where the shade trees are, I mean, they're still,
Yeah.
when they're still not, when they haven't dropped their leaves yet, this is, it's been a good year for that.
How about would Concom be involved in any of that?
I don't know how much Concom can do in, I mean, when you get into, buffer zones and stuff like that, yes, but, you know, one of the first things I was on the planning board for was the new gas station. And when they realized the houses all around the gas station, you were gonna get a private view, a front row view of everything that went on,
Mm,
and they had turning diesel trucks, turning tractors in there, they realized that fast growth trees like white pines were a mistake, because a few years later, you got the trunk and the tree's up there. So they agreed to an arborvitae type tree. It's not a perfect solution, but it's something to buffer the neighbors. When is that gonna start? Do you have any idea?
I haven't heard a word from
It's
them.
on hold
No.
because they may make some changes.
Put in housing.
They're talking about resizing the building and moving some things, and then there was some discussion about a different site.
Just, did the abutter across the street sell to them already, or is that on hold also?
I don't know.
She, yeah.
So so Dan and I will go through this, and, what's your schedule on?
well, I wanna try and post a once a month, meeting for the review process, and of course, our once a month meeting for planning board business.
So if you're doing planning board on the 6th, so sometime in probably the 3rd, 4th weekend in October, then we can come back in and we'll have
Mhm.
some recommendations for edits and updates.
In fact, I think right now, cause I'm booked to be out of town on the 24th, what's the Thursday before the,
20th?
what's the Thursday before the 20th of October?
I'll tell you right
Yeah.
now, Mr. Chair, I gave away every night that week today.
So the 20th of October is not good for you?
Hold on a second, let me take a look. You know what? My week of meetings stops on the 19th. So if I'm able to take a breath, I'll do my best and be here.
Okay,
Yeah, the
so
20th will work for me.
let's
Mhm.
set the 20th of October for our next
6 p.m.?
review session. 6
Next
p.m.
working group.
Also, I should say for the record to Don Swope, this is not a posted meeting of the planning board because we do not have a quorum. However, the working session is just that. So no votes are taken. And absent a quorum, I dare say I'll ask Don Swope to not even record the tape. It's a minor issue. Unfortunately, Mark didn't let me know he wasn't coming. Did he tell you anything about it? We'll send him an email, see what happened. So, I thank you very much then.
On a similar related matter, so on the zoning bylaw, is that also?
Yeah, I was gonna wait for Judy to tackle that one. That's also on,
When Jeremy was hot on that, I'd given him a memo with, I'm not a zoning bylaw expert
Right,
at all, but just some things to think about with some sustainability, transit-oriented development, some of those types of things, and I know Alan is really up on a lot of those things too, so I'm sure.
well, I wanted to get our internal done and then our zoning done because it doesn't require a town meeting. We can do that with a simple
Yeah,
vote of the planning board.
exactly, yeah.
And then I can then separately address for next year at spring. I don't think there'll be major changes to the zoning bylaw.
The revised version that's been.
Bring
I'm
it
only
to
familiar-
town meeting.
I'm only familiar with the one that Judy's been working on.
The revised one that,
This is
that
where there's
Jeremy
confusion, yeah.
had, so And
For
it
the
was right
zoning
when,
bylaw.
the zoning bylaw that was proposed, that I reviewed about a year ago maybe,
Probably just over a year ago.
was significantly different. Not necessarily changing a lot of the setbacks and the zoning requirements, but the format of it.
Okay,
And we just did it in my town, we just revised well, I don't even know if it passed town meeting. I know they've been working on it, and they had a very nice summary that, explained what we currently have and what the proposed is and why. And some of it was, updated wording, some of it
Mhm.
was clarification, some of it was changes in Mass General Law.
Well, yeah, and that's, you could have been sitting in the meeting last time, the first time I met Judy. That's basically, the form has changed to match forms of other bylaws. So you're looking at a similar document across the Commonwealth, that's one. Second, maybe making, changes to match changes in the MGL. And, the third thing was a definition of what the changes were. That's not yet done because we're still working on the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, that's why,
Yeah.
Jim probably remembers this,
That
because
was
it was my first town meeting, and Jeremy asked that the zoning bylaw changes were on the town meeting warrant,
mhm,
and I don't know if you remember, there was one gentleman, I don't know who it was, Bruce probably does, who, no matter what the vote was, he said no.
Oh, the little voiceover in the corner.
He was
Every-
Bob
every
White,
vo- Every
and-
vote, every vote.
And to have your consultant talk, it has to be unanimous
Right.
that they allow him, and there was a no, and so, and then Jeremy's like, oh, I don't know what to say, so they
Yeah.
tabled it,
Yeah.
so.
That's what happened, huh? I heard it was tough to get it. You guys had some contentious town meetings over the last couple
Well,
of years.
that was pretty, that was my first one, and I was kind of like, I didn't work me like 2 weeks, I'm kind of like, what am I getting myself into? That was when they went on the board from 5 to 3, and someone got up and said, if we could go from 5 to 0, we'd do it.
There's that, and isn't that the same meeting, or very similar to very close to the meeting where they unfunded the planning department?
No, I missed that, that was the,
That was the year before?
that was the year after.
The year after, yeah. Okay, they unfunded the planning department,
Yeah.
and we're now looking at stuff that comes from no planning.
well, historically, I've been back 20 years ago, I was on the planning board, and I went before the town meeting, 3 times. Once to change, to designate the, red light district on Barnum Road. And
I've heard about that.
And my,
We can't find it, but I've heard about it.
You haven't been to the water treatment plant
my,
lately.
my planning board members didn't show up. So I was the only guy on town. We need to put a red light district going. Well, the fact was, you have to designate it, otherwise it'll pop up besides
Right.
St. Mary's, I mean,
Well, they did it in my town, but they waited, what motivated them was that the bookstore did move in. Now it's too late,
And then the other 2 times were arm wrestling with Frank over the map, which is still yet to be as good as it can be. It's better now than, but the zoning map had a bunch of stickies on it, is what.
if that's something you need to work on too, and I don't know if I should volunteer this now, because I don't know we have a GIS intern who's really good with
Yeah,
maps. But he's,
Well, the thing
at
is,
the end of October, he's done.
we spent, I wanna say, 30 grand on getting the map all updated with all kinds of GIS and overlay and district. And someone who we all know and love, who doesn't work here anymore, threw it all out. Let the people who are watching the tape figure that one out. But anyway, yeah, and it was contracted back like 15 years ago. It took them like 3 years to go through and
That's changed.
all
That's
this.
changed.
Anyway,
The
that
last
said,
time I came from the GIS, fought about it, we finally funded it.
yeah,
18 months later, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Now they're adding in the information you really need to have all the time.
Yeah. And that's something
And you
I'm
can count on it.
brought
which
up
is
at our
really
last
nice.
department head meeting. So right now, Robin is our GIS intern. He's, I don't know if he's graduating now or he's graduating from very shortly. And then he's gonna take some time off, and then he's probably moving to Worcester, so he's probably not gonna be around here in this area.
It's a great community commuting
but-
opportunity for Worcester.
So what I wanna do is talk to the other department heads and see, does the town need a full-time GIS person in addition, I mean, obviously DPW, we have a lot of infrastructure stuff, we're always updating maps and updating condition assessments, and, it came in handy today, we were trying to find some sewer information. But I probably don't have a full-time position, but probably 60 or 75% does the rest of the town have a need for it. I think we do, but we need to really kind of put our heads together and figure out how we're gonna manage it and fund it and things, so you guys can think about that too, and if you want, at one of your meetings, we can have Robin and Dan give a little presentation on what we have.
Well, I think we're gonna have to, because right now I'm not happy with, the map, for example, that's on the town website. You know, that says, all this data is inconclusive for me.
Well, websites have to say that because you gotta go to the offices to get
The actual,
But I would love to see every single if the GIS maps are fairly complete for just use of the land, use of the property. How nice it would be instead of getting a sheet like this with a locust map this big on it.
yeah,
You know, it's difficult to figure out where that is.
Yeah.
Even if you are a resident of the town and a long-term resident of the town.
right,
And, you know, the guy who came to us the other day, the house next door to the library.
Yeah.
Didn't say a word about clear cutting. That's those parking spaces, those trees. That's an extraordinary, and it doesn't matter to me that the tree's gonna get cut down there because that's just been ignored for a long, long time.
yeah,
And it's probably a better use of the land, given that it's up against that. But that GIS type map, being able to pan out and pan back in and figure out where it is, helps direct the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, how's it gonna affect the neighbors? Well, we do the abutters around 300 feet, you know, what if there's, not that we should be looking, but I think it's really valuable information.
yeah.
And it's easily accessible.
Lowell, I don't know if you know, Lowell has an excellent, website for all of its, districts and all of its, can do, can't do, and it's really, really comprehensive.
Yeah,
It also lowers the barrier for entry for people who wanna do work in the town. Having access to GIS data gives them an opportunity.
Right,
You know, they're not
Right.
spending, you know, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all boats rise on that.
Yeah, yeah.
But knowing where sewer lines and size, isn't that
Well,
nice?
bring your questions on that to, October 6th, and we'll certainly allow time for, Q&A with Judy, and as we go through the, zoning bylaw.
okay. Great.
Good. Well, I think as a planning board, without Dan and Mark here, we can't be as productive as I'd like. So I think we've made good progress here with Mark, and although it's not a formal meeting, we still made good progress, and let's take it from there.
I think just having these meetings and keeping things moving,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
grind away at it if you know.
Well, this may, as a result, like I first thought that, all of this is gonna have to get meshed together. I come to find out that in fact, a lot of it is already put together. One question I have for later on, for example, is fees. You know, we have, the right, having adopted Mass General Law, Chapter 40, that, we can set our own fees, and are they adequate to the task? I mean, right now, we're charging $250 or $350 or $300 or $50 for an A&R. I don't know if that's adequate, because I think we were charging the same thing 20 years ago. So, that's something also to think
Yeah.
about, and the bond requirements, that sort of thing. So think about, are we, adequate in terms of fee structure?
I don't know who sets the, I don't know where in the process the number of copies of plans are set.
That's pretty
That's
much
in
fixed
the-
to all.
Yeah, that's in the site plan review
Yeah.
Exactly.
requirements.
Pretty much 10 copies covers, everybody.
Okay.
Cause we just started distributing to L2
Yeah.
and development.
And we internally reviewed that as to, yes, even though it's an A&R, or even though it's an administrative review, we're still gonna require all the copies necessary to let all departments know. So nobody's surprised about, where'd this come from? Okay,
What I have to work into my life is being able to pick up a copy. I'm usually gone before sunup, and I come back after sundown, except when I see you in meetings.
okay, so, that's about it for me then. I truly appreciate the input, and I think, I got a sense now we'll do this even much quicker than a year, although mentally I allow a year to do it.
Yeah.
I think we'll get it done, hopefully before town meeting. I'd love to put in the town meeting report for next year that, you know, as a result of this recent effort from August until now, or until town meeting next spring, that the planning board has
Yeah.
kind of
I don't see a
polished
lot of-
up its processes.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of hurdles for getting it done for Springtown meeting. And as a matter of fact, one of the other things that I'm, actually Dan and I could bring Dan in on it. We have a road opening bylaw that is pretty dated.
I'm only talking the internal stuff now, not
Right.
the bylaw.
Right, no, but I need to change the road opening bylaw,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and some of that will
Yeah.
tie in with the subdivision regulations.
The other thing that you should know, for me, and I think I'll hopefully convince my board of this, that anytime you do planning, it should be at a special town meeting, which means other than, April. Cause it's been my experience, and I think everyone will agree, people get in, they do the omnibus, and they're gone. At least if you get, a special town meeting like in September or October,
October, yeah.
you may get an audience like I got with the map that is dead set against you, or you may get an audience like the red light district, which is dead in favor. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, you can stack the house, but still, at least you've got a captive audience. I
Right.
mean, we did this before, like, for example, I think this is before your time, but I was instrumental in writing the aquifer protection. And that's something that we zipped right through town meeting, thank you very much, it was well done, and because we had a single captive audience, didn't
Yeah.
have to worry about 65 other articles that.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I say I'll bring it to town meeting in terms of the zoning bylaw,
So
I'm gonna
that'll
push
be-
to have that done at a special,
Yeah,
for sure.
for the following.
I'm curious, with Alan being in town, and there seems to be a lot of discussion about our town and how it's being used and where it's going. I wonder if the town meeting would be.
Oh, yeah, cause you
would
got
be
master
as-
planning,
Well, we got master planning.
is
we got
gonna
the
come
streets thing
forward.
going, we got the, economic development director working on stuff. There seems to be a feeling like Ayer's, getting poised to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wonder if you get that much pushback, as opposed to a town meeting.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
Because again, our general sense right now is that number one, what did we just say? We don't want waivers anymore, we don't want rubber stamps anymore, we don't want arbitrary and capricious anymore.
Exactly.
And we want all departments, quote unquote, to be on the same wavelength so that, well, I can get an exception from this one and I can't get it from that one, and maybe DPW will let me get away with this, there'll be none of that. All departments will be on the same wavelength as far as what we're requiring and what we want our town to be. So, good stuff.
Right, good.
Okay, yeah,
Great.
all right,
All right,
yeah, thank you very much.
One